This stream is this is a stream. This is a recording. What am I even doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, after how long have we been doing this channel? June of last year. Finally, I'm the one that's doing the recording this time. I was,
Hey, I mean, you've done the recording a couple
yeah,
times.
I've done a few, but it's been my Neanderthal brain using iMovie ultimately, and I like that because I'm able to go in afterwards, and it's way easier to edit doing that. Where I've been using Craig and QuickTime Player. I think that's what the application's called. But now I've finally figured out how to do this, and it's no longer me and my pea brain trying to work my head around this. Let me turn this down just a teensy bit on our end. There we go. That's fine. All right, and let's see. I probably should get the insurance policy up while we're doing this. All right, just in case this goes horribly wrong, let me get this button here. Let's see.
Now recording.
And there it is. Everybody heard that. All right. What is today's episode? If you can't tell from what's on the screen right now. Yeah, I wonder what today's episode's going to be. See, if I go to another tab, does it follow me over, or is it just? Yes, it does. All right. So note to self: whenever I record a live play, I can't do what I usually do whenever we play games, and I'm not recording.
Yeah.
Right.
Imagine not being able to listen to music
And
only listening to that one song.
well, that's not what I'm imagining. Let's get right into it. Let me just turn this down just a little bit. There we go. All right, let's actually begin this episode. Let's stop digging around with OBS. So there we go. For all you schmucks heads at home, yes, I do have an AI assistant helping me figure out what exactly I'm doing with this. No, I don't follow these time frames. For anyone who's looking at this, and it's hard getting a podcast going on sometimes, and you need to figure out just what exactly I'm doing sometimes. There we go. Yeah, go ahead and get this out of here. I got this copied somewhere else. All right, let's actually get into this. So, Wraith the Oblivion. We've got myself. We've got, well, Kyle's not here today. We've got Kingofgreed with us, and we got our usual guy. We got Ryan with us for today's episode.
Hey.
All right, let's get this butt out of here. Okay. So, Wraith the Oblivion. What exactly is this game? What is this? What are we even playing? What are we even doing here? Yes, what is the question?
I don't even know that question.
Yeah, you don't even know the question.
I don't even know the answer.
Yeah. Greed over here is our local server's Wraith the Oblivion expert. Meaning he out of all the people on our server, he knows the most about this, which is why I called him in for today's episode.
I am a changeling guy, but I know Wraith a little.
Yeah, you know Wraith, and we're going to get right into Wraith, because Wraith is a really good game that's almost impossible to play, but you should play it. Because, oh my god, the stories you will tell. Is my mouse on the other side of... No, okay, no. I'm still figuring out this software. Okay.
Now, I would say Wraith is a game you would play. You should play with people that you're comfortable with, unlike most other games.
Oh,
this
yeah.
Game, you can't really be comfortable with the people.
Oh, yeah. You gotta know your group if you're going to play Wraith the Oblivion. So, explain the system. Ryan, you know what a ghost is. And that's...
Yeah, I know what a wraith is.
Yeah, you know what that is. So when you die, you have a 5 to 10% chance of not moving on. Most souls, depending on how it works with the world of darkness, there's sometimes you go to heaven, sometimes you go to hell, sometimes you reincarnate. It kind of depends on what part of the world you're in and whether or not you're a mage. But you might end up in a place known as the Shadowlands, which is where all the ghosts want to hang out. It's fantastic. And this is a game that takes place almost entirely within that realm. And you can have Wraith games that take place outside that. You can have games that will be in the Skinlands, which is what the Wraiths call our world. But that's not really approved upon by Wraith Society, given that the, say, dictum mortem exists. And
I don't know why it exists for ghosts, though. Even though ghosts will constantly do this shit. I
Well-
don't know why it exists.
well, it's because Karen's a dictator. That's why. And
Yeah.
and Karen is without a doubt my absolute favorite character in all of World Darkness. He
Had
is
one job.
that is my favorite character. Anytime Karen comes up, out of all the lore characters, this is the one I like the most. And King, you saw that I posted in the server not that long ago. I had a little like tier list of. I was using that meme of nuanced villains on a tier list, and I had Karen at top tier.
He is very nuanced.
There it is. Because I think this really is the best antagonist when it comes to World Darkness.
And first of all, he's not even really an antagonist. He's a misunderstood.
Yeah.
We'll get to him later. We'll get to him later.
And with Wraith the Oblivion, we need to explain the big drawback to Wraith before we can really get into this game, the shadows. All right. Ryan, you're familiar with Carl Jung, right? All right. This is a clinical psychologist who, well, not really clinical. Psychology was his wheelhouse. And a lot of his stuff was more theory. He didn't really have any experiments to really prove what he was talking about. But with his theories, with what he was talking about, he came up with a lot of stuff that is accepted today in psychology. And one of his ideas was the shadow self, where there is a piece of you that you despise so much that you deny it exists. You don't want to admit that that's a part of you. And if you tell me that, oh, there's this quality about me that I don't like, there's this quality about me that I don't like, this is what my shadow is, you're lying to me if you tell me that. Because this is a part of you that you are repressing so much, you deny it to yourself, and you would tell nobody about this. This is something that you want to take to the grave with you. And that becomes... To clarify.
Sorry. You know the concept of the id, the ego, and the superego?
Yes.
This is like the id, but your id is all your desires. The shadow is everything vile about you as a person.
Where, say, you're familiar with the Persona games, right? That you've at least heard of those, Ryan?
Yeah, I've heard of them, but I've never played them.
I thought Persona 4 was absolutely brilliant with its character writing because you fight the shadows in that game, where you have characters that, say, there's a character that's running an inn, and she's not happy that she's chained down to working in an inn forever. You encounter her shadow in her dungeon, and she says, oh, I hate my family business. I hate my family for chaining me down to this life. I don't want to live this kind of life. As all I want to do is just tell my entire family to just fuck right off, and I'm just going to run off and be my own person. And you fight that manifestation of her shadow in a boss fight. And that continues with other characters where you fight a guy's shadow where his whole shtick is that he's a repressed homosexual that's trying his best to deny those feelings. You fight somebody who's thinking, oh, I'm living a lie and I'm just doing a child's game and that's it. Where that becomes manifest in Wraith the Oblivion. And you don't get to play that. Your character doesn't get to play their own shadow. Instead, the other players at the table play your shadow and decide what your shadow is.
That's why.
There's the thing, because the core theme of Wraith the Oblivion is personal torment. You are dead, and the regrets you had in life, and your failure to accept who you were as a person is preventing you from going to heaven. And now you're stuck with the worst aspects of yourself until you can lose those shackles. That's the core theme of the game. And it's an incredibly personal game, Wraith the Oblivion. And this is why I was saying you have got to know your table if you're going to play this. Because it can get super dark super quickly, and it can feel like at times the players are antagonizing each other when they play Wraith the Oblivion. So this is a game that I'd say you need to have played Vampire, Werewolf, Mage, Changeling, Demon, or Haunted Reckoning first before you get into Wraith the Oblivion. Because this is the best unplayable game in the world. I really
thing is with Wraith, your end goal is trying to let go and overcome every aspect of negativity and hatred inside yourself. It's literally, it's depression in the game, but also out of the way of depression in the game.
Yeah, you want to lose that piece of yourself. You don't want to keep hanging on to that darkness within you. And with Wraith the Oblivion, there is this massive lore story, but most Wraith games that you would encounter on Roll20 or in a player group are going to be deeply personal kind of stories. You know what I'm talking about when I mention Silent Hill, or I mention a movie like Jacob's Ladder, or I mention a book like Solaris. You know what I'm talking about, where even in the Shadowlands, your character's own feelings of guilt and regret and their inner darkness will influence the land around you and will attract monsters to you. who are the key enemies of Wraith the Oblivion? They are the specters.
Well,
Yeah, well, yourself and the specters.
oh
Where
yeah, I should clarify. You haven't figured out I'm Vale from Rage Across Russia.
there he is. That's him. That's the guy who stole our gun. And
Yes. Now, I want to explain this part about specters a little bit.
explain it. Do it. Do it.
Correct me if I'm reading it wrong here. But a specter is, when you try to fight against your inner shadow, that's what happens when your inner shadow takes over your psyche and your being. You are nothing but a creature of disdain, hatred, and negativity. All right. This is to explain a little bit more. Well, explain a little bit more about the realm of the Shadowlands. But as a specter, you are a creature of complete abandonment. You are a Fomori. Your ghost is nothing but hatred and vileness for the world.
It's almost
But-
identical in concept to the Fomori of Werewolf the Apocalypse or the Beast vampires of Vampire the Masquerade.
But you want to know a unique thing about specters?
Tell us this thing. Tell us.
They have a shadow too. It's called the illuminated part of them.
Yeah.
It's a part of them that said, "All right, you may have won this time, but I will also try to make you do good."
You have this inner. It reverses around, where it's your own psyche trying to remind you that you're still a good person and trying to redeem yourself. Granted, that almost never happens.
Really
But-
really rare for specters.
But there is still a possibility of redemption. In case you fall, in case you gather. In this game, it's called angst, which is what you're fighting against. With vampire, it's your hunger. With changing, it's your banality. With Haunted Reckoning, it's the police. And this game, it is angst, where the more you let your shadow beat you down, the more in denial you become of your own circumstances. The darker and shittier your mood gets, the more angst you begin to accumulate. Once you have 10 points of that, it's over. That's it. You lose yourself and you become a specter. And Ryan, you getting sold in this game so far?
Yeah, I'm slowly starting to understand.
And same thing too, because Wraith, you're already dead. What exactly are the stakes behind this? I mean, if I just become a specter, I can't die a second time, right? Well, there's two big things waiting for you with Wraith the Oblivion. The first one is the Sea of Shadows. You remember what this is, King? This gigantic ocean that's just in the world of the land of the dead.
This is why it's so hard to explain. It's metaphysical to the extreme. It's an ocean at the same time it's a storm. It's hard to explain.
Yeah, because when everything started, back when you had a Shadowlands at the beginning, you just had a single, forever expanding sea of blackness. And the water is Vanta black. It is the kind of black that absorbs light. If you stick your head in the Sea of Shadows, you can't even see your own face. You can't even tell what you're doing. It's eternal darkness, eternal silence, eternal cold. Nothing can sustain itself within the Sea of Shadows. It is death. It is liquid death, is what it is. It's what the Sea of Shadows is. And
the other thing?
yes, and the other thing. The other thing.
Well, okay, I'll explain this a bit too to get. No, you want to take this? Sorry.
Yeah, the other thing you're worried about is the labyrinth, where if you die as a wraith, you end up going into, say, this Pac-Man maze called the labyrinth, where just imagine the most abstract dungeon you can think of. If you're familiar, what comes to my mind, I was watching Creepcast before this, which is why it's on my mind, the No End House, where it seems like the architecture of the labyrinth just doesn't make sense. You enter a room that doesn't architecturally match what should be capable of the labyrinth. Rooms will blend in on each other, rooms will just shift, and you are lucky if you can escape the labyrinth. The quickest you'll be able to escape the labyrinth is, say, a month in game, if you ever die a second time and end up in the labyrinth. The other thing is that this place is absolutely infested with specters, waiting to keep you and drag you into the labyrinth and make it so it's impossible to leave. That you can never escape this, the darkest depths of the underworld, so to speak. You can find a way out. There's multiple access to the labyrinth. There's multiple ways to solve the puzzle, but there's no guarantee that you're going to end up in the same place that you were with the player characters before you died a second time. In case you're wondering how this is possible, Wraiths have a health system called Corpus, where this is, say, your ability to keep your own body together. Once you lose your corpus, you fall apart and you enter the labyrinth, is what happens to you. King, am I missing any threats? Because you know of one that it might be a little bit too early to mention, the Neverborn.
Yeah, the Neverborn. If you want to talk about them, I could talk about them. But I would to explain the realm of the Wraith a little bit more.
Yes.
At at the bottom existence, there's a hole in existence, not reality, existence. It leads to primordial oblivion. If the worm had a mother, no, if the worm was a seed, it would be primordial oblivion.
Mm.
No concept, no nothing. Absolute zero.
There's this whole idea in Werewolf that the worm is death and death personified. That is not true. The worm is an entity that controls death. Oblivion, as in Wraith the Oblivion's Oblivion, is death made personified. It is just this empty void that whatever it touches, it is erased from existence. It is this progressively progressively glowing black hole that will just erase whatever it touches.
The worm is cosmic entropy. It may be destructive, but it's still destructive. The oblivion is there is nothing. It's just nothing, period.
Because after all, everything has to die at some point. You can't just stay in Stygia forever. But then some characters in this story denied this. They want to say that it is possible to just make a society in the Shadowlands. Hence, where we get into the meta plot of Wraith the Oblivion.
Right.
What? Do you have something you want to mention first?
No. You said let's talk about Neverborn. Basically, to sum it up very quickly, there's all kinds of ranks of Neverborn. I mean, specters, Neverborn, or the other kinds. I forget they are called. Are basically the God Kings of the race of Spectre Society.
Yes.
That's about it. As I can get.
In order to ensure that you can't escape death, sometimes a creature will come out of the Oblivion, known as the Neverborn. This is a death monster that is made to just pursue something until it dies. And that's what it is. If one of these is after you, that's it. You're not getting around it. The only thing that can really like circumvent this is say what you're saying.
We said the. Sorry for interrupting again. We said the labyrinth is at the bottom of existence, but I just said that Oblivion is at the bottom of existence. Exactly. The labyrinth is the stopper for Oblivion. If the labyrinth didn't exist, the literal underworld itself will be consumed into nothingness.
And that's it.
The labyrinth.
You need the labyrinth to exist.
Makes no sense is because it's the fragments of everything that falls to the underworld.
Mm-hmm. And what it I was realizing I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself with the map plot. So what exactly do the Shadowlands look like?
Everything.
You remember, Ryan, that you have the pattern spiders in, say, World of the Apocalypse?
Yeah.
Now, with the pattern spiders, when something is built in the material plane, the pattern spiders will begin to copy it in the Umbra. When that building is then destroyed in the material plane, unless the Weaver really likes it in the Umbra, the pattern spiders will demolish it. When it is demolished, it is then returned to the Shadowlands. Everything that used to exist but no longer exists ends up in the Shadowlands. Is how this works. Where, say, name a building that doesn't exist anymore.
Library of Alexander.
Like that. Or if you want to go a little bit more morbid, but it's still true, the Twin Towers, for example. Where if it used to stand but doesn't stand anymore, that's what inhabits the Shadowlands. All these buildings that used to exist but don't exist anymore. The biggest example of architecture being the first city. You remember the city that Cain built that got erased during the Great Deluge? That's in the Shadowlands.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can go there. That place still exists. And
well, hold on, that's getting into too much lore, but it exists in a sense.
Yeah, and it also had the whole Tamahe Ra subplot that went nowhere with Vampire, and then got axed off by another writer before it could go anywhere at all. And I think now is a good spot to get into the meta plot before we start talking about the powers in the guilds.
Yes. To explain this little bit thing here, like in the World of Darkness and Mages, every continent has its own version of a Shadowland.
Where
it's structured and it's fueled by your belief system, right?
Yeah, they're all modeled after the belief system and the cultures of the people that live there. You had, say, the flaying fields in Central America that were based off of the beliefs that the Mayans and the Aztecs had. You have Da'at in Egypt, where it's based off the beliefs of the Egyptians, and that afterlife ends up encompassing not just Egypt, but most of the Middle East as well. And in Asia, you have the Kingdom of Jade, that is run by one Qin Shi
Young
Huang.
Emperor.
Yeah, Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China, who is still alive, and, in a sense, is a wraith, and is ruling China from the shadows. And may or may not be the thing we need to fight the Yama Kings. It's kind of up in the air as to whether or not the Yellow Emperor is actually a good person or not. But
Yeah.
I digress. Most of the plot of Wraith takes place in the Kingdom of Iron, better known as Stygia. And we cannot talk about Stygia without talking about Karen. We need to talk about this dude. Yeah.
He's not the first person to die, but I don't know how to describe him, how he got the job. To describe it like this, no.
Yeah.
You love Charon so much, you go on. You take this.
Yeah, I'll go over the story with you. Ryan, you know who he is in terms of Greek mythology, right? That
Yes.
Yeah. Where he's the ferryman that takes you across the river Styx. It's what he does.
Yeah.
And for a while, that's what it was. Back when the Sea of Shadows was still, before we had the Tempest, we had ferrymen, where if you died, you ended up in the Shadowlands, you had no idea what was going on. You just end up in this world where nothing makes sense, there's seemingly no rules. I'm already dead, well, how do I eat? How am I supposed to make a living? Is there a living to make? What exactly qualifies? Are there rules for this? Nobody knew what was going on. So a bunch of people ended up figuring out how being dead was supposed to work and what you're supposed to do upon dying. These people would become known as the ferrymen. And the best of all of them was Charon, who the Greeks would eventually associate with being a god of the underworld and the one that would be there to greet you upon your death. Whether or not you needed 2 coins to pay him at the Styx after having the coins put over your eyes, that might just be old wives' tale. Don't worry too much about that detail. And
You wanna know how Charon got to the job?
see, tell us how he got the job.
Well, just like with Silverfang, death itself said, you're in charge of the underworld here.
Because after all, he was doing such a bang up, good old job in the underworld that it had to be him. Anyone else was going to get this wrong. So after death itself seemingly selects him, Karen starts thinking, this whole ferryman deal, we're still suffering down here. There's not really much of anything to do down here. So if we're going to make something of ourselves, we need to form an actual society. We need to have a place for us to rest and figure out how to adjust ourselves, how we're supposed to live down here. And he eventually meets a right hand with the Lady of Fate. As for who the Lady of Fate is, well, thank you for asking me, because we get no explanation. She is one of the most enigmatic characters in the entirety of World of Darkness. She might have been someone who died and then just never moved on, but she's with Karen for this entire story. And Karen decides that we need to set up a ghost society, a necropolis, if you will. He goes over and he builds the Onyx Tower, where it's this gigantic... Well, you can imagine what this building looks like with the name Onyx Tower, can't you?
I know what the Onyx Tower is in D&D.
Yeah. Where, what was it? Morning Canaan lives? Is that
Yes.
is that the tower? It's this 18-story tall tower that he lives in. And after this, Karen decides, I'm going to hang up my boat. I'm going to pick up my scythe, called Cyclos. And with this will be the weapon that I use to defend ourselves while I build this empire. And he did a good job. He started building a small city around the Onyx Tower. And all these other wraiths, all these other ferrymen would lead everyone else who died to the Onyx Tower, and they would slowly start building this necropolis, where they would end up forming a society and call it Stygia. And you did have to defend it. There were specters that wanted to destroy this. You had to throw out the Neverborn, and somehow, some way, the Tempest started. Now,
Yeah, that.
the Shadow Sea doesn't exactly evaporate. As to how this happens, it's kind of murky as to how the Tempest started. But now we have storms of that death water, that liquid death I was telling you about. It now forms hurricanes, and it will go across the Shadowlands and destroy everything it touches.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Uh, the Tempest is basically if you took Oblivion, watered it down, you made it into a storm, and you threw it at something.
You threw it something. If you remember in our live play that we fought Wraiths in a Storm in Rage Cross Russia, and that was dealing 7 points of aggravated damage when you stood in it.
That was a light storm by comparison.
There it is, because this would flay the skin off your bones, and then
Nice.
fill your muscles with bullet holes as it tears you to shreds. Which, if you
Sounds like a good time to me.
if you step in this, it's over. You're not coming back if you step into the Tempest. And
Yeah. And the reason why my character was fine, and all specters are, is because we are attuned to Oblivion, but it hurts. But we are in a constant cosmic pain. I didn't portray this in Vale, but he pain.
yeah, it is painful to be a Meeseeks, Jerry.
Yeah, specters. It's stated like this here: the only time you don't feel pain is when you inflict it on others.
And with around this time, you get the Roman Empire, where uh, Karen is looking over at the Roman Empire after Greece practically surrenders control of the world to Rome with the Ventru, and he says that looks like a good idea. We're going to copy that. We're going to set up ourselves looking like Rome. But Karen, should we be just be a part of Rome? No, let's leave that alone. We're not getting involved with Rome directly. Karen starts coming up with laws saying we're dead. We're going to sustain ourselves. We're not going to get involved with the affairs of the living. Where looking at this would eventually become the dictum mortem. I'm looking up. I'm just fact checking myself whether or not Karen started this now, or no, he starts this after what I'm about to say. He doesn't write a code of law yet, but he says that we need to leave humanity alone. We need to form an entirely Wraith society where it's just Wraiths, and only Wraiths. We can sustain ourselves for here. We don't need mages. We don't need demon slayers. We don't need any of this keeping ourselves alive. And he's right until the first great maelstrom happens. Rome falls, and it's chaos for everybody. All the Romans are thinking, woe is me, what are we supposed to do? How are we supposed to continue our lives? And upon that collapse, the worm ends up losing control of his greatest take at world domination. And his resulting fury and the fury of all and despair of everyone in Rome causes a gigantic hurricane to rip out of the Sea of Shadows, and in it are a ton of specters, and the first great maelstrom begins. Karen and his ferrymen do everything possible to try to fight back this storm, these invading wraiths. And by the time he's done, sure, you save Stygia, but turn around. The Onyx Tower is destroyed. All the buildings you made are destroyed. The roads are destroyed. Your population, everyone is shredded. Half of these people are in despair. The other half are dead again. And Karen seethes over this. He is pissed about this. He thinks, never again am I going to allow myself into such a vulnerable position ever again. And the ferrymen are saying, well, Karen, it was a good try. It was, you tried being the Roman Emperor of the dead. Maybe it's time to hang up this idea. Maybe we come with some other idea. And Karen doubles down. He says, no, I can do this. I'm right about this, and I don't need you to do it. And what does he do instead? He kicks out all the ferrymen and rebuilds Stygia with the Death Lords instead. Where you remember the Legion?
Not, really?
You said something, Ryan?
I mean, why not? Really?
Why not?
There are two reasons why he and the ferryman sort of grew distant. Now, to be fair, the ferryman never once disobeyed him, so they just went about it. They were loyal soldiers, and they still are loyal soldiers to the king of all of Stygia. That hasn't changed or ever will change.
Uh-huh.
By their standards.
But they start noticing that Karen might be going down a dark path. He's not taking him seriously. He's only taking himself and his own intuition seriously. And with Wraiths, doesn't Karen have a shadow? If he's spending this much time by himself, only ever consulting himself, how much of this is his shadow talking? And is he even
Yep.
aware that's talking? And
Yeah, because the rest of the Reapers at this point have literally taken their shadows and threw it into the labyrinth, which became some type of specter, I think.
yeah,
But basically, all the ferrymen took off all negativity in their beings and threw it out of them.
yeah.
Karen has not.
To explain what a Reaper is, those are the people that are going around finding wraiths and bringing them to Stygia. To explain that job, and
Yeah.
with this, Karen appoints the Death Lords. He makes the Lady of Fate a lord, and he sets up the legions. We have, if I am right, we have 7 of these: the Iron Legion, the Skeletal Legion, the Grim Legion, the Silent Legion, the Penitent Legion, the Legion of Paupers, and the Legion of Fate. And no, we have 8. The Emerald Legion. I was about to forget them. Who could ever forget the Emerald Legion, right? All right, and getting into it, he appoints the 7 Death Lords. Not a single one of them are ferrymen. They're all people who died that either had positions of authority or kissed up to Karen, is how they got their jobs. And all is well, Karen ends up writing the Dictum Mortem, where it's a very loose set of laws, but if you want me to cynically boil it down, Karen is saying, I am the God Emperor of Stygia. My word is law. I decide the laws, and what I say goes. And my first law and biggest law is you are under no circumstances, I have it in writing now, to ever interact with the living world. If I catch you doing this, you're out of here. You understand me? Good. Now let's get on with it. To very quickly summarize it.
Yeah. Now that we forgot to mention this here, but Karen's original job was to ferry people to the far shores.
Yeah.
There was many afterlives in these Shadowlands that he was supposed to take people to. At this point, he has stopped doing that.
Yeah. He no longer believes in his own job anymore. He's beginning to think, I don't want to lead people to the afterlife, because if I do that, I'm losing my staff. I'm losing my soldiers. I don't have people to defend Stygia because I gotta justify it. I mean, it wouldn't it be better if we all moved on at the same time instead of individually? I need you here helping other people. You can't just go to heaven by yourself. No, that's selfish for you to think that. You need to stay here and you need to help these people ascend with you. If you're leaving, you're not a team player. And you don't want to be known as somebody that's not going to be a team player, do you? That's right. Let me guilt you into staying in Stygia. It's good that you want to stay in here. It's good you want to be my soldier and you want to die for me. I mean, you want to fight against these specters with me.
Yep, that's sadly the thing is because the original job of Karen was to bury those that did reach that reincarnation the first time.
And he does have moments where he sits down. It's the whole scene of the Onceler in the 1970s Lorax. Every once in a while, I sit down with myself and say, Karen, aren't you ashamed of yourself? And he's thinking to himself the entire time, am I wrong about this? Is there something in my mind where I just don't get it? I just don't understand it. Am I becoming a villain? Am I becoming a tyrant? But he would always talk himself out of it. That no, what I'm doing, I have to do it. And it has to be me who does it, because anyone else who tries doing this will get this wrong. It has to be me who leads Stygia forever. He's not even interested in his own passing on by this point. And this goes on, all is well, kinda, sorta, in Stygia. Karen starts something called the Soul Trade, where I think you've heard me mention this before, Ryan, the whole Samuel Haight being turned into an ashtray joke. And you thought, well, John, what are you talking about? With some of the powers of Wraith the Oblivion, in Habit, I believe is what it's called, you're able to forcibly put wraiths into objects or mold their bodies into tools, weapons, and armor. And you're able to use that as commerce. You see the money that they use in Stygia, that used to be a person.
Yeah.
Isn't that what we did with that one guy in Rage Across Russia?
That is what we did with the guy.
Put him into a gun.
But we didn't keep him in the gun.
At this point in lore, in 2020, or made out of other souls.
Yeah.
At this point.
To explain the difference between the items, you have artifacts and you have relics. Correct me if I'm getting it wrong, King. With an artifact, that's a weapon that is made in Stygia, that is made from another person's body. A relic is an item of importance to a wraith that exists within the Skinlands. That's the difference between the two. At least I hope that is. I still got it right. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. And
Yeah.
now,
Then to clarify, there are two versions of Stygian-made soul weaponry. There's Stygian steel, and there's just soul metal. I think.
soul metal, basically that's pig iron by this point. It's good at one thing, and that's building stuff. It's not really going to help you in anything. But then you get into Stygian steel, where this is the soul-bound kind of steel, where these are weapons that were designed first and foremost to kill specters, to send them back into the
No,
labyrinth.
my bad. They're called soul steel, not Stygian steel, but they're actually it's the same. It's just one that's made with actual metal.
Oh, do I have it
Which
the other
is-
way around? Do I have it the wrong way around?
Yeah, no. I got it wrong.
Alright.
Stygian steel is made out of souls made with metals in the underworld, and soul steel is just souls made to metal.
Yes.
That's me here.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's what it is. Both of them are made out of souls. I'm retracting that statement now. Both of them are made out of souls, but Stygian steel, that's your weapons. So in our game, Ryan, you have one of those swords. The Stygian
Yeah.
steel.
Yeah, I stole
Now, to
it.
put it into
off someone.
comparison, Stygian steel can endure literally oblivion, watered down oblivion, hitting it 24/7. That sword would be impossible to break by almost anyone's standards.
You have an eternal sword that's made specifically to kill evil spirits.
I know a werewolf who could do it.
Yeah.
I know two werewolves who could do it.
And
Yeah, Stygian steel is real nasty.
it is that is what you want to get your hands on, and it is super valuable in Stygia at this point. That is the weapon
Yeah.
that will save your life in a fight with a wraith. And
For reference, if you wear Stygian steel armor, it doesn't give you armor dice. It gives you extra health levels.
exactly. So your corpus maxes out at 10. You can go beyond that with Wraith the Oblivion.
Yeah, if I would have sorry for interrupting. If I would have gave Vale Stygian steel armor, he would have had 20 health levels.
Exactly. An absolutely ridiculous number that you would have spent that entire session just wailing on that guy alone. And with everything is, well, it could be better in Stygia now that you got the soul trade going on. Along with that, he's started implementing slavery. Karen, what exactly were you doing here, dude? And then
Yeah.
the second Great Maelstrom happens, where was this 1500s Europe? What exactly is going on around this time? I don't know. 15th century Europe. I'm sorry. Black Plague. You want to die from a Black Plague? You want that to happen to you?
Yeah, the thing is,
No.
when you die with grief so hard that you refuse to die, it adds to the storm. And when it happens in mass, a maelstrom happens.
Yes, with that many people dying that quickly, a second Maelstrom happens. But Karen is better prepared this time. He has the Death Lords with him. He's able to fight against it. But now he's looking around and thinking, I just about lost everything in this fight. And I need to double down. I need to make sure that we don't run the chance of that catastrophic loss in the first Maelstrom. He's able to fight back the Spectres, but now everybody's beginning to realize that, Karen, you might be a dick. You might be in the wrong here, dude. Now, Ryan, to explain how Spectres work with their magic powers. With Werewolf, it's Gnosis. With Vampire, it's Blood Points. With Wraith, it's Arcanos. And it's filled off of your Pathos. Your ability to feel strong emotions gives you psychic power that you can use as a Wraith. And these powers range from being able to soul forge to being able to tell where you are in the Tempest and being able to prevent you being stuck in the Tempest, to being able to move things with your mind, to being able to form a physical body in the Skinlands. That kind of power. The people that teach these powers are the guilds. You don't just learn these powers by yourself as a Wraith. Somebody has to teach this stuff to you. It's like the gifts in Wraith the Apocalypse combined with the disciplines of Vampire the Masquerade. And this is a mechanic that I find really interesting. And it makes...
In the guild.
What? The guilds of what?
Well, sorry. In the guilds, you could only learn these from the guilds. Nowadays, in the now times, there's two types of powers for each one. There is the guild ones, meaning you have to be with that guild to learn the upgraded version of the powers,
Yes.
or you learn it from the gutter trash everywhere.
Where I got the year of Black Plague wrong too. It's 14th century. Sorry about that, guys. Don't get everything right. And with this, the guilds that teach these powers are looking at Karen and are saying, "You know what, Karen? You can sit down and shut up. We know how to run this society better than you. We actually value the members of our guilds. You don't value anybody. We're going to take over." Karen then
They shouldn't have said
responds by dumping up the entire strength of his army on top of the guilds and signs into law all guilds are banned. All the arcanos are going to be taught by my legions and my death lords. And anyone that wants to learn arcanos outside of these legions, you're a criminal and I will put you to death for doing this. Perfectly same reaction, right?
Yeah, no. We can mock Chiron all we want. Chiron never gets challenged. Anytime he does, they quickly regret that. They quickly regret that one.
And by
I
the
never mocked Karen.
he's I certainly wouldn't do that. I don't want to be bound into a table. And
Yeah, Chiron is very powerful. We'll explain this later with the last maelstrom before he disappeared.
yeah,
He can go toe to toe with some pretty terrifying beings in power.
and keep that scythe in mind too, because that scythe is one of the strongest weapons in just the world darkness in general. And
It's a scythe given by death itself. What do you think?
it is. And now Karen is full blown paranoid. He's looking around saying, anyone is against me. Any one of you guys are trying to turn this against me. Why are you trying so hard to tear down what I'm doing? My mission could not be more virtuous. I am doing you a favor by building Stygia. I am out here fighting for you, fighting for your existence, and you keep trying to ruin this. Why? Why are you so against me doing a good thing for you? And with this, he goes full-blown tyrant. He is sick to death of trying to be nice, Karen. He almost becomes a Spectre by this point. He's not a Spectre, but he might as well be, because of just how much he embraces this tyrannical aspect of himself. And he denies being a tyrant. He says, no, I'm still your benevolent God King. I'm doing you a favor with all this. He doesn't recognize just how sick he is anymore. To him, he is the hero, and he can do no wrong. To everyone else, he's this deranged king that's going to turn you into an ashtray at the seemingly a flip of a switch. You can't approach this dude anymore. And that affects the Death Lords too. One Death Lord in particular, the Skeletal Lord, where take a wild guess as to what he looks like. And
Real quickly, he's the Death Lord of all the people. Oh yeah, each guild,
yeah,
each legion,
yeah,
on how and
yeah,
and I think he's violence.
yeah. No, he's disease.
Oh shit.
Where we'll discuss the legions in a later segment, but he becomes Karen's biggest kiss ass. Just anything Karen says, the Skeletal Lord says, "Oh yes, Lord Karen. Yes, Lord Karen. Please, Lord Karen. Of course, Lord Karen. Let me write down everything you do like an obsessed stalker. This is what this guy has. He has every conversation he's ever had with Karen, and every conversation that Karen has had with anyone else, written down and recorded and documented in his chamber." That's how
He also has to say for himself as well.
he is that obsessed with Karen.
He is Karen's fanboy. Now, to be fair, and this is my thing going out my way to talking to the Reapers. I mean, Ferryman, and why they're such big G's. Even while Karen's an absolute maniac, they still obey his orders reliably. That's a few things Karen will never suspect of betrayers, and that's the Ferryman.
Mm-hmm. And then the third maelstrom happens. And Ryan, you remember what happened around, say, the Spanish conquistadors discovering South America?
I gotta say, history was never my strong suit.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe the colonization and genocide happened. Maybe, just maybe.
Hey. They were sacrificing people on fucking altars.
Yeah. I'll tell Dad, Sexer Loco, the sun will rise tomorrow. You don't have to kill your kid for that to happen. And what happens is that upon the Spanish coming to the Americas and bringing disease and killing the natives and just, well, causing absolute havoc. You brought all this banality with you. You brought the worm with you and caused a complete collapse of the shelllands of Central America. The flying fields are no more. That is collapsed. The specters have taken it over, and now every specter that was in Central America is now running across the Atlantic Ocean right for Stygia. I wonder if his attack is targeted. And Karen comes prepared this time. He's going on the offensive. He says, I'm done trying to turtle in. I'm done being in Stygia and only Stygia. No, we're moving out. We're taking the fight to you this time. He pushes the specters back at a massive casualty cost and then chases them into the other Shadowlands. And he decides, in order to prevent you from coming after us again, I'm going to start building city-states. I'm going to get my man with the Iron Legion to start building cities, necropoli, in the biggest cities in the world. We're going to get one built in what would become London. We're going to get one built in Madrid, Paris. We're going to start erecting all these bases to be bulwarks against these specters. And sure enough, he does. And it's a miserable task. You need a lot of slave labor for that. And a lot of recently enslaved Native Americans that thought they were free in death and were going to see their ancestors. But no, the Reapers and the Freemen are waiting for them. Kieran throws the chains on them. And now you are his bitch. Wonderful.
And if you rebuke, you are the material.
There it is. You either work for him or you become the brick that will be placed on the mortar. Your choice. And you're conscious while that happens.
Well, most of the times your consciousness will just disappear after like a century.
Yeah, eventually you'll eventually cease to think. But that will be a miserable 100 years until then. It's a salvia trip that will never end. And now Kieran has gone full-blown villain. He's going out to other Shadowlands that he really does not need to go to, invading them, conquering them, and turning them into Stygia. You no longer have a Shadowlands of East Europe because Kieran has invaded that kingdom, destroyed it, and made it part of Stygia. He tried doing that with China. He tried doing that with Da'at. He's already done it with North America. North America had a Shadowlands. It's not a thing anymore. It's now Stygia.
It belongs to Stygia now.
It belongs to Stygia. Everything is now Stygia. Behold, is that yours now? It's mine now. Boom. Conquest. It's a wonderful thing. Great guy, this Karen guy.
Yeah, Skyron, as much as we want to keep bastardizing him, he was really effective as a leader. He was just an awful person.
Because, behold, he did get his kingdom. He did create Stygia, and Stygia is now standing the test of time. That is now the kingdom that will never fall. Maybe. Because what happens next? The fourth Great Maelstrom?
I think it's the fourth one. Let me look.
And what happened?
I think this is the Maelstrom when you realize it.
See, this is where the downfall begins. And this is the First World War. Where this is the war where everyone in Europe thought this is it. It's over. Everyone in Europe is at war with each other. All these other countries are getting involved. It's over. And with that despair, you combine that with Spanish flu. You combine that with all these empires collapsing overnight. And you just got a whole lot of specters that have poured into the Shadowlands. But the thing is, these wraiths don't have fetters. What is a fetter? A fetter is what attaches you to the Skinlands. It is something you had that you value or you deeply regret, that reminds you that you were human, that reminds you of the life that you used to have, that keeps you from falling to your shadow. It's keeping you from moving on, sure, but it's keeping you sane at the same time. These are people that go into Shadowlands with nothing, and they almost immediately become specters after encountering one specter that specters all over them and then drags them into the labyrinth. And now you've got all these different Manchurian candidates where in the Grim Legion, who are wraiths that die of violence and are Kieran's foot soldiers, now any of one of them could be a Manchurian candidate that will suddenly become a specter in the middle of a battle. And that becomes fully realized, and not even 20 years later, the fifth Great Maelstrom, World War II, happens. But it doesn't happen until 1945. You might be
Oh
wondering.
no, you're skipping over something here. You're forgetting how bad the Maelstrom was because
Uh,
each time the Maelstroms was getting worse and
uh,
worse and
oh yeah, but by this time, the Shadow Sea has become choppy. It's no longer this flat expanse of darkness. It is now a raging ocean that is constantly spitting out hurricanes. There is,
yeah.
you could sail across the Shadow Sea before. Now it's impossible, and now it's beginning to affect the rivers and other bodies of water in the Shadowlands. It has become incredibly perilous to be a ferryman now because the rivers that used to be just the lazy river. I'll just take you onto my gondola. We're having a gay old time. Now it's a raging rapid. That if you make one failed check, you're now dragged under that water, and you are never coming out of it.
Now, that's not the bad part. What makes it so bad is that the shroud actually started getting below level 3. Now, for reference here, and I don't think if I remember this correctly
Yeah,
here, in the World of Darkness, no matter how much supernatural powers from mages to vampires, the shroud can never go below level 3. Like there's a permanent barrier between the realm of death and the realm of
yeah.
life.
That the shroud is
The
another word
shroud,
for the gauntlet, but this one specifically being for the division between the Shadowlands and the material plane.
it got so bad that the shroud started going below 3.
Where now you're beginning to have specters that will just slip into the material plane and start causing havoc. And
That's how bad it is.
you remember that whole dictum mortem? Well, now we're going to have to start bending it because we need to chase specters into the Skillands before they kill other humans and create more specters.
Yes, the specters were actually possessing their once dead bodies and got back up on the battlefield. World War II sucked.
And on top of that, you have the Giovanni and the Kuei Jin who are making matters like that even worse.
Yeah.
Where
Now, what? Now, the fifth maelstrom is where fucking finally, go on.
Karen begins to realize he's wrong. What happens during the fifth Great Maelstrom? You would think that wouldn't Stygia just be absolutely flooded because it's World War II, you had the Holocaust going on? He was able to manage the Holocaust okay. You had this massive waiting list of Wraiths that are waiting to cross over into Stygia, and a lot of recruits for the Grim Legion. The Grim Legion ballooned in size during this event, where the Smiling Lord, the guy who leads the Grim Legion, was very happy to have all these foot soldiers. And
Two different.
and sure, you had despair, you had absolute misery, but the forces of entropy, the Worm, and Oblivion were more interested in the material plane than they were the Shadowlands at this time. It wasn't until America dropped the bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki that, almost like a switch flips, the maelstrom begins. The sky of Stygia catches fire while this is going on. What goes from a land of black and white becomes a land of bright orange, as everything is now on fire all the time. You have this massive hellgate that opens up in the Sea of Shadows, where specters that you've never seen before are now pouring out, and these guys are nastier than any other Maelstrom specter you've seen before. And
Uh,
what's even better, Gorul comes out of the ocean. Goroo is how you spell his name. Godzilla, dude. That's
I
what
thought
he
you were
looks
talking
like.
about the
Now to
werebears for a
clarify,
second there.
What you're
yeah.
saying, Ryan?
Go on.
I thought you were talking about the werebears for a second there.
No, that's the go out.
Yeah, similar. But this is Gorul is his name. This
I have to have this up here.
this gigantic shadow dragon that comes out of the ocean. And do you remember we mentioned Baylor before in Road of the Apocalypse? You put 10 Baylors together, this is the level of destruction that this guy can cause.
He to put it in power here. I've told Push here this on many occasions. There are two classes of Neverborn. Doesn't really matter. But in Wraith 20th edition, if you want to play as a Neverborn, you can as a Spectre. And you want to know how much experience points you get to make your character when you choose to play as a Neverborn?
You said it was something along the lines of 200, right?
You get 1,000 XP points.
Okay, I was wrong. I was grossly wrong.
And this fucker was the strongest one of them all.
And the strongest one to ever exist, as far as we know. And
Chiron picked up his scythe, and this is up to the point.
yeah,
Sorry, for
yeah,
interrupting. He at this point
yeah, but this
realized he fucked up
yeah.
really badly. He took his shadow, threw it out of him, came into full cosmic realization what he's done, tried his best to get the remaining souls to the realms of the afterlife from the Shadowlands, saw that bitch, picked up his scythe, and said, "Fight me 1v1."
He goes in and he takes responsibility for himself. He says, I've realized that what I've been doing has been a mistake. That we were supposed to move on. But I'm beginning to realize that this storm, I've caused it in a way. I've set up this perfect storm because of Stygia. I've been preventing people from moving on. I should have been just taking you to the afterlife this entire time. I should have listened to the ferryman 2,000 years ago, and now it's too late. Now this beast is here, and it's here because of me. It looks like my shadow. This beast exists because of me. So he takes the scythe, he fights it, he goes into a sea of shadows with it, and neither of them come out. And
Yeah, no, that's terrifying.
that is my favorite story in the World of Darkness. That beats Saw and Tremere for me, where Karen's entire story, where the villain realizing that he's wrong, does so much for me. Where you look at yourself and you realize I've made a mistake, and I'm going to atone for it. That is one of my favorite tropes in fiction, and I love that they did that with Karen, where this guy has been almost the antagonist of Wraith the Oblivion since the beginning, and now he's gone. Now he's gone.
Yep.
At 1940,
Yep.
1946 comes around, no Karen. Where's Karen? No Karen. Where is he? And the
Yep.
and the eight legions look around and say, "Well, who's going to take over?" And they all look amongst them.
Now, at this point,
By this
the
point,
Spine Lord has two different times, on two different occasions, tried to overthrow Karen. The Spine Lord has got his ass handed to him
yeah,
both times.
you tell me a guy that died through violent means is a sane man? You tell me that?
He has tried multiple occasions.
Where
He's going to try it again.
and he's died and has been replaced twice already in the story. And this Smiling Lord, who definitely isn't the original guy, decides that it's his time to rule, and he goes head to head with the Skeletal Lord, who wants to run things the way they always were back when Karen was in charge. And this leads to a small civil war in Stygia that has to quickly stop because, as it turns out, oh, Karen, you were trying to invade the Kingdom of Jade. You were trying to invade China this entire time. Now that you're gone, the Yellow Emperor sees that you're gone and has declared that it's time for revenge. China's Wraiths then begin to invade Stygia, and that civil war has to be put on pause as now the Wraiths are beginning to fight the Chinese Wraiths in a desperate bid for survival, and they know they're not going to pull out of this one without Karen. The Skeletal Lord is trying to do everything he can to find out where Karen is. The Smiling Lord, however, is deliberately undermining his own war effort just to raise demand and panic. He wants more soldiers. He wants to have excuses for more power to land in his lap. He's deliberately undermining Stygia in a bid for power. Not really understanding just how short-sighted his own actions are. The man can't see past his own nose. He might be insane, because he is directly responsible for the sixth Great Maelstrom. Where
The sixth Great Maelstrom is happening, but at the same time about to happen.
yeah, this is simultaneously the most scary and the dumbest story in all of World of Darkness. So we've mentioned before to Ryan about the technocracy, the technology mages.
Right.
So there was this guy called Cersei's Jones. Yes, that was his name. Who was a void engineer, the kind of technocrats that are involved in space and extra-dimensional travel. Decided that just for the hell of it, he was going to build a nuclear bomb that worked on ghosts, and he was going to detonate it in the first city. You know, that place where the Tamahe Raw were inhabiting, that city that went nowhere with a plot point? He plants it there. The Smiling Lord looks over at that and thinks, oh, it would be really funny if I took my nukes. I have 2 nuke copies of the bombs that were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. I'm going to plant those bombs right next to his nuke, so when he sets it off, it causes the other 2 nukes to explode too. Xerxes Jones presses the button, and the Week of Nightmares happens. An explosion so powerful, it almost destroys Stygia by sending a ton of wraiths into Labyrinth. And it continues. That maelstrom breaks out of the shroud and starts moving through the world, and it attacks mages. It destroys every ascended mage's avatar. There are no more
Do you
mages that have a
understand
ret 5 or higher. It's not a thing
to make
anymore.
this real heavy how powerful this is? You know how I am a fan of Demon the Fallen.
Yes.
That storm was so destructive, it was able to reach the prison of Demon the Fallen's prison in non-existence.
Yeah, it blew a hole into the fabric of hell itself, and now the demons of Demon the Fallen are escaping hell. And
It put a
not only that, it woke up Ravnos, the antediluvian Ravnos from Torpor, who then went on his 3 days of torment. and
and made the technocracy piss themselves.
upon his awakening, it simultaneously woke up every other antediluvian across the planet in doing so. And to make matters even worse, yes, it gets even worse. You know, the technocrats had all these different bases out in outer space. That storm seemingly got worse in outer space, caught the technocracy. There's all their Mars and Moon bases, wrapped them up in a bundle, and just flung them out into the darkest reaches of space. And they didn't die.
Which would be known as threat? No.
They came back with a vengeance after that storm, like a blender, mixed them all together and turned them into the Borg from Star Trek. That's basically what Threatnol is. This half human, half machine symbiotic entity that controls multiple minds and multiple bodies and can exist in multiple places at the same time, run by this massive AI computer that used to lead Iteration X, is now coming to Earth and will lead an invasion that once it reaches Earth, it's over. You won't be able to fight it. It's over. That will be the apocalypse once it reaches Earth.
Yep. This is the World of Darkness, people. Turns out managing the underworld was actually very cosmically important.
As it turns out, even though Karen atoned for his sins, he was still wrong because yes, you killed Garul, but you also left your entire kingdom without a figurehead because during your reign as a tyrant, you failed to appoint a successor, and the kingdom fell apart without you.
Yeah. Now, another fun fact is, now this is during the end time scenarios. You can find Charon. Charon was reincarnated. You can find him in that end time scenario. You basically trying to get Charon to be back in charge again.
Where this is the first story in the World of Darkness to get a conclusion because Wraith turned out to be this massive money pit that nobody was buying and nobody was playing. And this is what led to the downward spiral that would eventually put White Wolf out of business because you just, I don't know, spent all this money without actually looking at your sales data.
I love White Wolf for this because they wanted to make a story first and foremost and not a product.
Where you can tell that there was passion behind this, and that's why I love Wraith the Oblivion, but this game is unplayable. You're going to try anyway. You need to at least try Wraith the Oblivion.
And everybody that I've ever met who's read Chrono Houses of Europe said that is an amazing book.
Because you have Socks on our server who bought a copy of that book. I think it's physical that he has. And the original print of that book had pictures of Holocaust survivors in it that was gifted to one of the authors. And White Wolf said, no, that's too much, man. Or no, it's their publisher that said that. And said that those pictures had to be removed and replaced with the drawings. Where just let you know how bleak Chrono Houses of Europe is, because Ryan, that is the Holocaust book. When you hear us talk about that with World of Darkness stuff, that is a Wraith the Oblivion campaign that was made to take place during the Holocaust.
Oh, I mean, well, that makes sense.
That's a really cheerful game.
Yeah, the book was a Holocaust survivor as well.
You look at this, and this was actually a really well-researched book. It had a lot of factual information in it. But if I want to learn about the Holocaust, I'm not going to go to a tabletop game to learn about it.
Yeah, but that's just all it is. Oh, right, I forgot this is the most important aspect about the Shadowlands. You know how I said there's metal in the Shadowlands?
Uh-huh.
There's also things that live in the fucking Shadowlands that aren't ghosts.
Yeah, these freaks and geeks of nature out there.
I forget the exact name for what they're called, but basically they are the ectomagnetic plasm, but sentient. If they're the sentient life forms natural to the Shadowlands.
Mm.
Now, there's very few about them, but I'm gonna name one. Its name is the Kraken.
Uh-huh.
This thing was so big. No one, the people that have seen it state this one fact. I haven't seen all of it,
Yeah.
and you know how many hit points that one piece of it had?
Or like 50 or something.
85.
100.
There we go.
Oh, it was
And
close.
Piece of the Kraken had 100 hit
it,
points.
it, it's the gun devil from Chainsaw Man. And the term for these guys there was Stimu, where these are just beings that were born in death and just live in the Shadowlands. And do we understand anything about them? No. They're just here. They're here.
You have to deal with it.
Yep. Do you have an
And
explanation for
weirdly,
this?
the
Nope.
storm- I think the storm doesn't really touch them. I'm not sure exactly. I have to look into those guys a little.
Oh no, it doesn't touch them.
So I have a
Right.
question.
Yes.
Do wraiths live in the Umbra, or do they live in their own spectral plane?
The
Okay.
Shadowlords, the Shadowlands is technically part of the Umbra, but the Umbra is separate from the Shadowlands. Because yes, you do step sideways as a werewolf to enter here, but this is more like a parallel world. The Umbra is fucking huge, dude. Huge.
Okay.
And this is a place that
All right,
runs
I
parallel right beside the Umbra, where they touch without ever becoming the same place.
The Shadowlands is the lower Umbra.
Yes, where you have to like jump down a hole to hell to get to this place. It's on the same level as Malpheus.
So the way
Yeah.
I'm seeing this is that there's layers to the Umbra.
Yes.
Because I remember Graham and someone else was chasing Fenrir, I think it was, through the Umbra, and he was digging even further down.
Yeah. Where it was that Stormcrow that escaped you, and you were trying to dig into a lower layer of the Umbra. And
then there was another time where we went into the Umbra to enter Cairn, and then we needed to get into the Dreaming from there.
yes, where you have to go through like a portal to it, where the Dreaming is along the lines of the near Umbra, while the Shadowlands are in the deep Umbra.
The Umbra is very confusing. Also, here's the stat sheet for the Kraken.
See the stat sheet for the Kraken. See, where did you post this?
It's
put it in usual chat.
Where did you post this? Open in browser. I believe OBS is picking this up. Yes, it is. Let's just zoom in on that. Take a look, everybody at home, at these stats and just how ridiculous your boss fights in Wraith the Oblivion can get. Let me get my mouse off to the side. There it is.
100 plus permanent corpus.
There it is. You gotta love that. You gotta love it. You gotta love it. No fetters, no passions, no powers. It's just raw strength, and that's what you're dealing with. 15 dice to attack you.
He's got Argus 1.
There it is. He's able to find his way through the Shadowlands, and then that's it, really. There's just a little piece of it. All right, there.
Look at this charisma. Charismatic guy.
He's very charming. He is the Kraken, of course. All right.
Yeah, but that's a good example. I think there's a book for all the dwellers within the storm, but I haven't found the book yet.
Right. And now let's get to the legions. Let's talk about the legions proper. Where, to explain what these guys are, you have 8 of these. We're going to go along the lines. I'm taking a leaf out of Burger Krieg's book for this. I'm going to introduce them in roughly the same order, but I'll just do it in order that comes to my mind. We'll start with the Iron Legion, where these are wraiths that have died of old age. Now, I might be thinking, well, if you're that old, shouldn't you have come to terms with your death already? Try dying. There's a lot of stuff that you're going to think about as you're dying. You can't just accept death like that. You're going to think, oh, there's things I should have done in life. I should have done this with my money. I should have told my kids I loved them. I should have been with this girl, and that weighs on you for years until you die as an old man, and now you are stuck here in Stygia with us. Great, glad you're here. What you do as an Iron Legionnaire, you build stuff. That's what you do. I mean, simple stuff, really. You are the guys who are building Stygia. You're building the necropoli. You're building the cities. You're building the shelters that will prevent you from dying to the Tempest. You die so you can become a construction worker. Imagine that you are working with this construction company for 50 years and you thought you were going to retire in death. Nope, you're going right back in the job. There's no day off for you. What's next? The Skeletal Legion. Let's do that. Where these are wraiths that have died of old age. No, why I say old age? Died of disease is what they have died of. And of course, this is led by, I'm bringing him up, the Skeletal Lord, because he's lore important. That's why I'm bringing him up. And this is your police force of Wraith the Oblivion. You have all these guys who are disgusting looking. You've got boils on you. You've got snot pouring out of your face. You've got leprosy. Your limbs are probably missing. And what you do, you go around and you enforce the laws of Stygia. You make sure that everybody's following the dicta mortem. Nobody's learning a power that it shouldn't. Nobody's trying to form a guild. Nobody's trying to form an uprising. You go around. You swing your dick around. You are the man, so to speak, as a Skeletal Legionnaire. You also tend to look like a skeleton on this job. Because the longer you're around, the more flesh begins to fall off your bones until you just look like a skeleton going around. And Greed, what's next? Grim Legion. Let's go into them.
Call me T-Bone.
Yep. Where these are wraiths that have died of violence. So anything from being just simply shot in a crossfire of a wild shootout in a shopping mall, to say being beaten to death in the fields of Cambodia. That will qualify you. As long as you died a violent death, you qualify for being a Grim Legionnaire. Is how you get involved in that. Your job, you're a soldier. It's what you're doing. You're going out, you're fighting the Spectres, you're just throwing yourself into the same situation that got you killed. Is what you do with the Grim Legion. It's also led by the Smiling Lord, who has been replaced multiple times, and nobody's really sure what he looks like, and nobody's really sure where to find him, and we're not entirely sure how many Smiling Lords there have been over the years, but it's definitely not the same guy anymore. And this is the villain of Wraith the Oblivion after Karen disappears. And, so to speak, your final boss in Times of Judgment, Wraith the Oblivion. Next up, I want to talk about the Silent Legion, but we can't talk about them without bringing up the Penitent Legion, where these are wraiths that have died of madness-related causes. Just insanity led to your death. Think a Malkavian demits you, and you end up becoming crazy, and you die crazy. Once you die this way, you end up becoming a member of the Penitent Legion. Now, why exactly are they called that? Well, it's a belief, it's a wives' tale in Stygian society that madness leads to the creation of wraiths, leads to this tempest getting worse, leads to just chaos in general. And that upon death, you need to get your brain back on your head. You need to get your shit together to stop being crazy, stop causing all this chaos, and make up for this chaos that you have caused for your fellow wraith. That's what it is.
Oh, wait, we forgot. Each of these wraiths, guild legions, have their own unique seat of power.
Yeah, where they all have a Death Lord that leads them. And
the one that leads the Penitent Legion is the Lady of Madness.
Yeah.
And her fortress is the seat of a sucker.
Yeah, where it's this hospital maze that constantly changes shape. And it's really boring to be inside. Just all the walls are beige, all the furniture's beige, everything just looks the damn same in here. And that's it. And this is
Silent Legion.
Now, the Silent Legion is a group that has to constantly justify their own existence. These are wraiths that have died of suicide. And the Grim Legion says, you died a violent death, you killed yourself, you need to be a Grim Legionnaire. But the Penitent Legion says, your madness led to your death, you should be a member of our Legion. So Silent Legionnaires will frequently disappear from the Silent Legion, only to pop up back again in either the Grim Legion or the Penitent Legion. They have to constantly justify their own existence. But what do? They try to prevent other people from killing themselves, is what they do. If you're familiar with the show started off so well and ended so poorly, but they had a very good episode, the View, BoJack Horseman, The View from Halfway Down. If you talk to people that have survived attempted suicide, you find out that they're grateful that failed. They did not want to die. And the people that follow through with that and have no regrets, don't regret their decisions, are people that have fully taken the black pill and there is no hope for them. That there is no other way you could wrap around this. But even after you die, of course, you're going to regret doing so. That the circumstances that led you to taking your own life become your fetter and prevent you from moving on. And they don't want anyone else to suffer that same kind of fate. So they intentionally break the dictum mortem to go off and try to prevent people from doing that. But if they want to play in line with the dictum mortem, they just try to do that, but within the Shadowlands. It's hard to do their job if you're just in the Shadowlands. You need to have embody if you want to be a Silent Legionnaire. But ultimately, these are one of like the few genuinely virtuous people in the World of Darkness. They're fantastic people.
I can't find their seat of power, but they're run by the Quiet Lord.
Yeah, where imagine who he is, but based on that kind of name. Let's see, Legion of Paupers. Let's talk about them next. Who are people that don't know how they died? How'd you die? I don't know. It's just I was walking down the street and then I end up here, where sometimes when you die, you don't really remember how you died, and with the Wraiths and the Legion of Paupers, you are detectives. If something goes wrong in either the Skinlands that involves Stygian society, or if something is going wrong in Stygia, you're investigating it. The Skeletal Legion enforces the laws. The Legion of Paupers discovers how was the law broken and how can this be prevented. That's what you're doing. You're a detective, so to speak. When we did 3.5 and we had them directly team up with the Silent Striders, that only made sense to me. Because after all, you're trying to figure out how are these specters being made, how are specters getting into Stygia, how can we prevent this, is what you're doing. You're a problem solver, ultimately.
And you want to take a guess what the name leader is?
See, I forgot this guy, actually.
The Pauper Lord.
Or, well,
the Beggar Lord.
As simple as that. Where, if I'm right, isn't he usually like the swing vote when it comes to the Death Lords?
Yes.
Yeah, where this guy seemingly has no idea what he wants. He changes his mind on the fly all the time, and you have no idea what kind of policy he's going to vote for in Stygia. Wonderful. I love a wild card in my games. Emerald Legion. Let's talk about them while they're still in my mind. And with the Emerald Legion, this is the most important legion because they run commerce in Stygia. You cannot have a soul trade and an economy without these guys, because they're going around making sure that you have money, you have soul steel, you have Stygian steel to be bought and sold. You have property to be bought and sold at Stygia. And they're led by, if I'm right, his name is just the Emerald Lord, where...
Yeah, he's just Emerald Lord, who's from the seat of Thorns.
Yeah, where he used to be a guy that was a senator in Rome before Karen killed that guy and replaced him with a ye old American politician. One of my favorite bits of World of Darkness was a guy that died after sticking a whalebone in his asshole.
You're joking.
Yeah, no, he was doing that to clean his rectum. He was picking the huckleberries out of his asshole. That's what he was doing.
Okay,
Yeah.
wow.
How you become a member of this? Well, after that explanation, you die from an accident. That's what happens. Just something went wrong and you died from it. That's how you become a member of the Emerald Legion. And this is probably where we should bring up death marks. When you die, similar to Yu Yu Hakusho and especially Beetlejuice, you initially look like the way you looked until the moment of your death in Wraith the Oblivion. Now, with these guys, shouldn't you look super fucked up upon your death? The answer is kind of sort of yes. Because until the moment where life leaves your body, you have guys that died after salt licks were dropped in their heads. You have guys who died after being dropped in rock compactors. You have guys who died in chemistry lab explosions, where you tend to have really gruesome members of these guys in this legion. Very charming, right? This is the guy you want filing your taxes in the underworld. Where probably my favorite example of the Emerald Legion, if you want to know how to run them, just watch Beetlejuice. Just watch that movie. Now you know how to run the Emerald Legion.
Beetlejuice.
We stat that guy out, by the way. I put him somewhere in Wraith the Oblivion where I stat that guy's entire sheet. And
Oh,
see,
nice.
So with that, we have one more Legion, but they're really up in the air. Nobody's really sure what they do. It's called the Legion of Fate, where you remember the Lady of Fate that we mentioned very early on in the story that nobody really knows anything about. She just seemingly does whatever she wants, when she wants, however she wants. She has her own Legion
Yeah.
that she got because of just how astronomically powerful she is. She might be on the same level of strength as Karen, and we've never really seen what she can do. And what exactly do these guys do? Well, it's a mystery. You'll get to know. We're not telling you. We're not telling you in this video. Go off and find it out
Yeah.
on your own. We're not telling you. But
Yeah, as you can guess, her name is the Lady of Fate, and her seat is the Seat of Fate.
Yeah. But a lot of the people that are members of the Legion of Fate, if you ever find out that they are members of the Legion of Fate, always have fatalism as an arcanos. This is a power that's mandatory if you want to be a part of this Legion, just because of the nature of how the Legion works. And now we can talk about the thing that everybody's here for, arcanos. You want to talk about all the fun powers? You want to talk about all these disciplines? How many disciplines are there in Wraith and Vampire the Masquerade? Don't answer that question because you've got 13 of them to pick from in Wraith the Oblivion. Am I right about that? Is there 13? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yes, there is. Along with 3 powers that you're not supposed to learn, but you do have the option to learn. And we're not going to go into detail about the Dark Arcanos in this video.
That's a Spectre video.
Yeah, we'll leave that for the Spectre's video. All right, there we go. So let's go down the line on these. You want to talk about Argos first? Let's go about this alphabetically. Let's talk about this in alphabetical order. Let's talk about Argos, where the guilds aren't really a thing anymore, but we'll mention the name of the guild that existed back when they were a thing. The people that created these were what?
Officially not a thing.
Right. Because they're a thing, but they're not a thing, which leads me to ask, White Wolf, why did you make guild books and not Legion books? Why did you do this? Why did you spend all this money on Wraith? It's like the Creed books with Hunter the Reckoning. Did we seriously need an individual Creed book for every single Creed you can play as? The stuff that White Wolf,
but it did help a little.
the shit that White Wolf spent money on, that I just don't understand this company sometimes. But either way, the people that would teach Argos were called the Harbingers. Now, what does this power do? It lets you tell where the Tempest is and allows you to navigate through the Tempest without dying. Basic powers involve you just being able to orient yourself inside this gigantic hurricane, while eventually you're able to use this power similar to, say, Obfuscate from Vampire the Masquerade. You can use the Oblivion itself and the darkness of the Shadowlands to cloak yourself in shadows and disguise yourself. Along with that, you're able to take Oblivion, turn it into wings, and then fly around with it. It's a weird navigation power that suddenly becomes your miscellaneous power. Just anything that you should be able to do as a Wraith that no other Arcanos can do, Argos just gives it to you. Crazy stuff you can get with this. All right. Next up, we have... What?
No, I was about to say you need Argos to actually soak activated damage, actually.
You do. Yeah, it's one of those powers that just does everything and nothing at the same time. Just...
It's weird.
So behold, any power we had that we couldn't turn into an eventual Arcanos, we just threw it into Argos. There we go. So this is one of those... But you could make the argument that just every Arcanos is quintessential, but you can only carry 7 of these on your character sheet. Let's see, next up is... What?
It lasts that long.
Let's see, if your game lasts that long. So, next up is Castigate. These were taught by people that were called Pardoners. What this does, it allows you to see other people's shadows. You find out people's deepest, darkest secrets with this power. Somebody's able to look at you and is able to immediately tell the secret that you yourself deny and keep secret the best you can. You can just figure this out with this power. What Castigate allows you to do that's really beneficial, besides blackmailing you, is you're able to understand how a shadow works and help another Wraith overcome that shadow. That's what you're supposed to be. You're a therapist with this power. It's almost like you're a nice person with this, where what you're able to do is you're able to, say, form a spiritual shield around yourself that will protect you from angst in your shadow. But then eventually you're able to, say, coax the shadow out of people's bodies and directly attack it and get rid of people's angst scores with that power. It's fun stuff, right?
Mm.
Where, Greed, anything I'm missing about Cascade?
No, it's basically the goodest boy power.
There it is. If you want to be an out philanthropist in your party, you take Cascade. Where I'm going to say at least one person at your table needs to have this. It's like Mother's Touch. Somebody needs to know Mother's Touch.
Yep.
Embody. Very simple, but this power allows you to do. The people that taught this were called proctors. Where what this does, it allows you to manifest a physical body for yourself in the Skinlands. This is how you quote unquote step sideways out of the shroud. And what you do with this, you just have a body that can touch stuff in the material plane, and that's it really. That's it.
It's very useful.
Where if you don't care about the dicta mortem and you're having a game that takes place in the Shadowlands, somebody needs to know this. Or you just can't have a chronicle. It's going to be a little hard to explain this though, because if a member of the Skeletal Legion finds out you have this power, that's a problem. That's a massive problem. You're going to have a lot of explaining to do. Next up is fatalism, where, much like the definition of the word fatalism, allows you to see the future. The people that taught this were called oracles. You see the future with this power, bombs away. That's what it does. That's all it really does. We're starting to get the... Enjoy this small handful of arcanos to have a really simple explanation to them. Okay, what is next? Greed. Going down the line, we have Inhabit, where this is the quintessential power where you cannot have a chronicle unless somebody has this, and Stygian society could not operate without this power. The soul trade could not work without this power. What it allows you to do is you possess physical objects with Inhabit. And that sounds super simple, but you're also able to bind and soul bind other wraiths into objects and keep them in there forever with this power. This is how you Bane tend, so to speak. If you have a Spectre that's giving you issues, or a wraith that has betrayed you, this is how you get them out of the story. It is super useful and super deadly. And that wraith that you encountered in Rich Cross Russia, this is the power that he was using the most. And this power has only gotten stronger with time. Because, King, you notice that the rules for Inhabit specifically mention electronic devices and machine devices a lot? Almost constantly. This allows you to possess a computer and hack a computer just by being inside of it. You want to talk about the Glasswalkers reading your data? A wraith just needs to touch your computer, and behold, all your files are now their knowledge.
And people wonder why having ghost spies is so powerful. They can get everywhere so easily.
Oh yeah, you want to know how the Silent Stars know as much as they do? It's because of this. And next up, Keening, where this takes a minute to explain. This is probably the most abstract power. This is going to take me a minute. The people that had this, that taught this, the guild, they were called the Chanturos. Now, what this does is that I am getting tongue-tied. Manipulates emotion through sound is what it does. Now, you may be thinking, why would I ever need this? This is how you give each other pathos in this game. This is your blood points. If you don't have pathos, you can't use arcanoi. So you have somebody that knows keening, where it goes from, say, being able to sing. If you couldn't sing in life, you can now sing as a wraith. And you're able to use this to identify keening in other wraiths, by the way. If somebody has keening, you know that another wraith has keening. And what you're able to do, by a simple spending of one pathos point, you can cause everyone around you to experience powerful feelings of sadness, anger, grief, love, happiness, joy, and you're able to create an emotion so strong, you get somebody clinging to that emotion. It is hard to feel anything besides ennui in the Shadowlands. Anyone that has keening, you want to be around that guy, just so you can feel something. That whole sentiment, I'd rather feel nothing than anything at all, that is a lie. You would rather feel pain than feel nothing as a wraith. You are starved for emotion as a wraith, which is why keening is so important to have in Wraith the Oblivion. And Kingofgreed over here is running an Orpheus game in our server. Sox is a player in it. He has the Orpheus version of this, and he's yet to use it. But in the encounter that you've currently set for us, that is going to be super important. Just just having that on him. It's a power.
If he does listen to this video, using keening on the main target will make that fight go by so quicker.
It will. It's a power that gets stronger the more creative you use it. It's like,
but that's all I'm going to say.
It's like vicissitude, where, well, I already mentioned vicissitude. I guess we're going to go ahead and talk about Moliate. Now, Ryan, you already understand this power to an extent. You know what vicissitude lets you do.
Yeah, it lets you morph skin and bone,
Yeah.
right?
Now, with Moliate, the way that Burger Creek explained it, I thought this was a pretty good explanation. You compare vicissitude to making a picture with colored pencils. Moliate is making a painting with oil paints and frescoes. That's the difference between the two. Because you can make yourself look like anything you want with Moliate. You don't have to look like a weird freak of nature like the Zamichi. You can just be whatever you want with Moliate.
See, I would have compared it to clay.
There it is. You turn your body into wet clay. You can morph yourself into whatever you want. Are you sick of your body? Did you not like how you looked in life? Guess what? You can fix that now. Were you skin and bone? Everybody made fun of you for being scrawny. You can now just make yourself larger. Were you fat shamed as a human? You can now just pull the fat off your body and just keep it off forever. Did you want to be muscular? You can just give yourself the muscles. You can just do whatever you want with yourself with Moliate. It's incredible. It's a really fun power to play around with. And
No.
What?
I can't find a GIF, but what you just said with the fat, it's a Doctor Who reference, and it's the guy there, like, the fat just walks away, and it's like these little blobs of fat walking out cat doors and shit.
I was thinking of like the scene from Family Guy after Lois gets the gastric bypass surgery and he has all of her fat stuff in that closet.
Yeah.
Peter's hugging and kissing it. Life Web, let's talk about this. Life Web, what do you think this power does based off that title? Let's see. Just a wild guess.
It's really surprisingly the dreams.
Yeah. Because the people that would teach this gift were called monitors. Oh, I never actually said who teaches Moliate. Silly me, let me get that name for you real quick. See, Moliate. The people that would teach you Moliate, just for retraction, they were called maskers. Guess why they were called that? Now, with the Life Web and the monitors, what this allows you to do is that it lets you detect fetters. Why would you need to do this? Just in case you need to remind yourself or your fellow Wraith what it was like to be human. This is like keening. It lets you feel something instead of nothing at all. And it's important to know about your fetters because you want to keep those around. If your fetters get destroyed, you lose a piece of yourself in the process. You want to know why Wraiths are super possessive of their haunts? Why, if you're tearing down a hotel, they really want that hotel to stand? Because if you destroy that, you lose a piece of yourself. Me and Kyle got done playing Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. King, you remember the Ocean View Hotel level?
Oh, yeah, that was entirely... Well, actually, there's another gift. I mean, another arcana that spirit was using on you. I'm not going to reveal it. Yeah.
We're about to get to it, too. But this is what you would use to detect that fetter. If you want to know why that ghost in that game was so pissed about you being in that hotel, that was his fetter, and he wanted you to get out of there before you stole a fetter that he had. Wonderful. And
Ghosts are very touchy about that.
yeah. This is pretty basic what Life Web does. It's a little strange to explain it, but it's one of those powers that I think like it'll be better for you to like experience in game with this power than for me to like give you a spoken word dissertation of it. All right.
Yeah.
See, outrage, telekinesis. That's basically what this is. The people that would teach you this were called spooks. Oh, a funny name.
Yep.
And what this does, so do you know what telekinesis is as a power? Okay, good. All right, moving on. We don't need to talk about outrage anymore.
Well, to be fair, it's destruction, but for ghosts.
Yeah, this is your only offensive power, so to speak, as a Wraith. And
I can do a lot of fucking damage to be fair with this power.
in Orpheus, it's called Helter Skelter, and this is what is saving us in fights.
Motherfucker, you had one Spectre.
Yeah.
You went against one Spectre.
Yeah, we were against one Spectre. One Spectre can do a lot of damage. You saw just how much damage Sox took in one hit in one turn combat.
I rolled well, to be fair, and I proceeded to not roll that well, but I was still beating the fuck out of Sox.
Yeah, I was convinced this character was going to die in that combat encounter. Let's see.
Yeah.
Now for the fun powers. With a power like Pandemonium, what do you think it does?
Oh, I love this power.
This is run by a group of by a guild called the Haunters, and they're kind of sort of still a thing because they work directly with the Giovanni. They have a very loose relationship with the Giovanni. What does this power do? Cause chaos.
Yeah, you know how you kept getting trapped in the buildings made no damn fucking sense? This was his power.
Yes, because this guy would just go in and just cause shit to happen. It will cause pots and pans to fly off a table. It will cause the walls to ooze blood. It will cause the lights to flicker around you. It will cause you to see things that aren't there. It'll trigger an acid flashback. It will just cause shit to happen, is what this power does.
I ain't being for real here. If you as a Giovanni summon a ghost with Pandemonium, you are basically immune to hunters.
Yeah, that's what it is. You bring this guy in, and you bring in one hunter, and with the Giovanni, you're set for life. Well, nothing to worry about.
Don't understand this here. Pandemonium alters the physics and reality in a building. The hunters can never get to you. Ever.
With the more points you put in this, your storyteller can just say anything can happen with this. As long as it affects the world around them, it does not directly affect people. It affects the environment around you, and this can do anything the storyteller wants it to do. The more points you have in it, the stronger the effect. Is very fun to have this, and Karen and Stages Society don't like it when you have this power. It's not out and out banned, but they really they would really appreciate it if you just never used it. It's great.
Yeah, but it basically saying if you as a Giovanni promises somebody with this power, no, it doesn't matter. They have to literally destroy your house for them to get at you. They can't burn it down either.
See, and what's next on the line? Phantasm. Now this one's fun. Yeah. Phantasm. The people that would teach you Phantasm used to be known as. Yeah, my page is loading. Sandmen. Yeah, the Sandmen. All the songs you can sing about these guys, right? Where what does this do? It affects dreams, is what it does. Bombs away. Do whatever you want with this. Where it allows you to jump into other people's dreams and control what they see in their dreams. Why would you ever use this? Once again, for pathos. You want to farm pathos. You want to give somebody a nightmare? Farm pathos off of that. You want to give somebody a wet dream? You can farm pathos off of that. As long as you give them a dream that gives them a strong emotion, you are guaranteed a point of pathos off of it. And because it's a dream, there is very little margin for error with this power. Granted, this will not get you out of a fight. This will only ever work on people.
It's a very good manipulation style power.
This brings me out to like the example I did with Yu Yu Hakusho. By the way, if you just want to run a Wraith the Oblivion game, watch Yu Yu Hakusho and get some ideas. As simple as that. But one of my favorite...
watch Ghost Hunter, the dubbed version.
Oh, you got Ghost Stories?
Yeah.
Where one of my favorite scenes in Yu Yu Hakusho was when Yusuke was still a ghost, and he came to Kurobara in a dream and helped him study for a final that he just barely passed. That's the stuff you can do with Sandmen. And why would you want to use this power? The big reason why you want to use this, say you have a loved one that's still alive and you're not, you can visit them in their dreams with this power. Imagine the stories you could tell with that alone. So, there we go. Phantasm. This is the key to running the most emotional moments at your table. Puppetry. You possess people. Simple as that, you just possess people with puppetry. The people that would teach this were called puppeteers. Bombs away, you automatically know what this is. Have you been possessed? Cool, you know what this is like. I don't think we need to explain this anymore. Moving on. All right. And then the last of the legal powers is usury. And the people that had this were called usurers. It took a long time to think of that name. Or what does this do? It heals corpus. This is your mother's touch right here. It will heal... the gas came up for a minute. It will heal your corpus. If you got wounds, behold, you can just use usury. You're able to transfer your pathos or your corpus into another Wraith's corpus and heal them. And this is great. The more you put in it, the more somebody will heal for. This is one of those quintessential gifts that you want somebody at your table to know. At the very least, one person needs to know this. And that's your legal powers, and now we get to talk about the ones that you're not supposed to learn. You want to talk about Flux? You want to talk about Flux and all the crazy stuff that Flux can do? Oh, I love giving people Flux. I love Flux.
I'm about to play. Oh, Flux? Oh, I thought it said Flex.
Yeah, Flux. And we're all flexing you with this Flux power. The people that had this power were called alchemists. Now you may be thinking, does this power involve taking something and turning it into something else? Kinda. Where what this does, you can pick up any object and you can reshape that object however you want, usually by rotting it. You'll take an object and you can just turn it into sand in your hand. But you can also take an object and strengthen it. You can turn that object into something else. You can change the composition of that object. Once again, this is one of those powers where the more creative you are as a player, the stronger this power will be. You gotta love some of these powers in this game. And, well, it's simple as that. Once again, say for example, you encounter a locked door that you don't have a key for. Just reach into your pocket, grab a coin, turn it into a key. Or a lockpick. Bombs away, the door's now open. It is a super useful power, and it's too useful. Karen thought that this power could be used for a lot of destructive stuff, and it could be used to destroy soul steel and entire shelters that were built to resist the Tempest. So the power was forbidden in Stygia. You're not supposed to learn this, but you can. Don't ever tell anyone that you know this power. And there you go. Sounds tasty, right, Ryan? Alright. Going along with this. Ryan, I do believe you muted yourself for a moment. See, intimation. You want to talk about this one, King?
Intimation.
Where intimation, you see in that screen that big glowing eye that's been looking at you this entire video? That's the glyph for, that's the sigil for intimation. The people that had this were called solicitors. I wonder what this power does with that kind of name.
Hold on. I think I lost myself. Let me. What page number is it at?
All right. Well, I'm looking at. I've been using the wiki as a quick reference point. Well, what this does, it allows you to read minds. Not in the same way that Cascade lets you read minds. Not in the same way that LifeWeb lets you read minds. No, you can just go into another man's brain and tell what they're thinking with this power. You can see why this is banned. Because nobody likes a mind reader. Nobody wants to learn, oh, what am I planning for the Legion of Stygia? What are my current plans for this fight against the Spectres? Well, how many people am I planning on intentionally letting die in the fight against the Spectres? How many secrets am I hiding? What members do I know of the Legion of Fate? This is why this is banned. You learn too much with this power.
It takes a step further. Intermission is about mind control in a sense. No, it controls your desires.
Where you're able to tell what the heart wants. You're able to tell what, like, your passions, so to speak. Where the passions is a Wraith, this is stuff that you cared about before you died. With intimation, you can see that, and you can exploit it, is what you can do. Go ahead and make that Faustian bargain. You know this person really loved his wife in his life. You can tell this man really enjoyed money. You can tell what exactly this man loved in life, and you can use that to blackmail and extort that person. Hence why this power is banned. Nasty stuff, right? And then my out-and-out favorite power in all of Wraith the Oblivion that you are forbidden from learning, Mnemonesis. Now, with Mnemonesis, what this does, it allows you to affect memory. Memory, dude. Right. You can go in, you can see the last few memories of a person with basic powers, and at higher levels, you can erase memories and replace them with new ones, fake ones that will change a person on a fundamental level because your memories are who define you as a person. You can use this to completely rewrite a man's passions, rewrite a man's fetters, or just mind wipe somebody and turn them into your slave or a specter. Behold, you see what this is banned.
I don't see the problem.
And the people that
it's not me.
And the people that taught Mnemonesis were called Nemoi. Once again, a name it took you a little while to learn. And then you do have arcanoi with the Wraiths, but that's very few of those are actually based around combat. They're more about controlling the storm and causing angst to occur in Wraiths. They don't hurt you physically, but they can hurt you in other ways, so to speak.
And also, let me think here. The other, the Stygian, hold on. There are arcanoi, the other kingdoms. Now, for instance here, Stygia is called the Kingdom of Iron and the Kingdom of Jade, ran by the Yellow Emperor,
Yes.
have their own those now.
Yeah, because with the Emperor of Jade, I want to have like a different episode for the Kingdom of Jade because it has their own book, but he has 6 unique ones to his kingdom. Where
Yeah, each one's based on your social class.
yeah, and once again, Karen would really appreciate it if you never learned one of these.
Well, you could be from Asia, then you can come all the way to the east.
And you're going to get a lot of questions asked from you upon them learning that you have one of these.
Anyway, if you guys are reading this one here, Aya is Veil, you're lucky. You're lucky. Push has not granted me to get more XP, or I would beat your ass into the ground with Veil.
Because a Wraith player can get very nasty when they're attacking living players. Because after all, you've seen just how tanky Veil is in his boss fight. He is yet to reappear in the campaign.
Yeah, I am headcanoning this. He is just healing.
There is. You're stewing in the kiln of evil flames, waiting to pop out again. And,
yes.
Let's see. And lastly, why exactly should you play Wraith the Oblivion? Well, for me, you think of a movie where you can describe it as beautiful sad. Like, what movie can you think of with that? Where, for me, one of those, like something that's like beautiful sad to me was something along the lines of, say, Silent Hill, or I wasn't a fan of the gameplay, but I appreciate the story, Shadow of the Colossus. Those kind of stories, where they're tragedies, but they stay with you because they got you to feel something. Wraith is a story where there are no happy endings. If you transcend, that's just the end of your story and that's it. Sure, you got to go to heaven, or maybe you descended into hell, or maybe you reincarnated. Your story just ends in Wraith. There's no, say, clean bookends to Wraith the Oblivion. This is a story where you write tragedies and only tragedies, but you can still find redemption stories in this. And with this, if you are sick of the saccharine nature of changing to dreaming, and you want to go somewhere deep with this. If you and your players want to see, are we capable of telling a tragedy like this? This is the game that's going to put you to the test. Where
it's a bittersweet story.
Where, sure, your character, the best possible ending for you is going to be bittersweet. Your character overcame their interpersonal demons and made peace with their death, and then gets to move on. Or your character was able to stop a specter invasion or a maelstrom at the cost of themselves, where don't expect your party to survive until the end of the campaign if you're going for a combat-heavy Wraith game. Do not guarantee your survival, because that ain't going to happen. And on top of that, a Wraith the Oblivion game is meant to take place over years. Years, dude. This is how long a Wraith game goes on for in-game. Kingofgreed, have you ever heard of a tabletop game called King Arthur's Pendragon?
Yes, I actually like that game.
A session of Pendragon is 1 year in-game. That's how long a session of Pendragon is supposed to go on for.
Months, depending on the story at the moment. You could be having your adventure with a dragon, but each session is about a year.
Depending on the story and depending on how long, how in depth you want to go with Pendragon. Wraith the Oblivion, do you think you just learn these arcanos over a day? No, this is years worth of training for you to get to this kind of point. So
that's another thing about Wraith.
Yeah, you're in Stygia for a long time.
Yeah, there's a variety of skill levels within Wraith. Because you're dead. And no one's trying to hunt you to extinction. You can sit there and learn every arcanoi in existence.
And the really old Wraiths have been there for thousands of years, dude. You're not going to get stronger than them overnight.
You're really not.
You want to talk about elders having a power advantage over you? You can take on an elder. You can't take on a Wraith that's been around for 1,000 years.
And worst of all, with Wraiths, they will just reform again, because another thing about Wraiths, if they don't turn to specters, they're pretty much immortal.
And you can tell deeply personal stories with Wraith the Oblivion too. Say you don't want to have an entire game based on the map plot. That's fine. Wraith the Oblivion says you can take the map plot, the map plot of Wraith. You can set off to the side. You can tell a story about just your Wraiths, and that's it. That's all you really need to tell. Because there's one video that I highly recommend made by William SRD about Wraith the Oblivion and Wraith the Oblivion Afterlife, where that game told a story just about you being a Wraith in a mansion, and that's really all you need with Wraith the Oblivion. With Vampire the Masquerade, you need knowledge of the clans. With Wraith the Apocalypse and Mage, you need to know the lore of those games, so you're going to run those. With Wraith, you just take the core rulebook, you take the rules, that's it. That's really all you need for Wraith the Oblivion. It's not as much setup as you really think it is. But then again, you do need to know your group before you play this game, because this can encourage problem player behavior. Just know that you're doing this for the sake of the story. You're not playing Wraith the Oblivion to power game. You're not playing Wraith the Oblivion to win. You're playing it because you at the table have a story to tell, and you're going to tell it in the most tragic way possible. And this is why I fundamentally love Wraith the Oblivion, and why at some point on this channel, I am torn between, me and Kyle were talking about games to run after Wraith the Oblivion. I'm thinking, depending on whether or not I run DC20 or he runs DC20, that if I become the dedicated World of Darkness guy running games, the game that I'll run will either be Changing the Dreaming or Wraith the Oblivion will be the next game that I run.
Changing the Dreaming? Changing the Dreaming.
Yeah, Changing the Dreaming is the obvious one, but if you guys want to do Wraith, I'll do Wraith. Ryan, what do you think about Wraith? What you think?
It seems interesting. A little complicated.
Yeah, a little out there, right?
Yeah.
But still, the storytelling in Wraith, I swear to you, you cannot find this kind of storytelling anywhere else. Also, the little bit of trivia that I like, that William SRD brought up, Wraith the Oblivion, ironically enough, was the first World of Darkness game to ever be made. Funny enough.
What?
Yeah, because you think it would be Ars Magica, where that was the first game to become printed into World of Darkness, and that was Proto Mage the Ascension. Wraith the Oblivion originally started off as a game called Inferno, where Mark Rain-Hagen had a game where it was you and a handful of other people as damned souls in hell. You could see why that game did not get past playtesting. I don't think Mark Rain-Hagen has ever really gone into detail about why Inferno never really took off, but that game would get put on a shelf and would eventually get brought back as Wraith the Oblivion, where it came back bigger and better than ever was before. And this is the kind of story where if you want to tell a story that's going to go somewhere dark and deep, this is the game that you want to run.
And the world is why I love White Wolf, old White Wolf, because at the end of the day, they weren't trying to make money. They were trying to make a great game world.
And this is why I like that White Wolf did exist. Sure, there was no way you're going to be really able to sustain yourself as a company, but you guys made so much stuff. The original White Wolf staff made so much stuff, and I'm so happy we got what we got. And the best part about this is that Paradox Interactive is never going to ruin this. They've abandoned World of Darkness altogether. They're making Cursed Born now. So,
Yep. I got one thing to say here. The World of Darkness officially had an ending. There was an apocalypse. The World of Darkness, there was going to be an ending. The 20th editions was just an example if it didn't happen yet.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Maybe should we write Wraith the Oblivion 3.5? Should we do that?
No.
All right. I think that's it for this video. Really. I thought we were going on for 2 hours. No, I think an hour 53 is good enough.
Okay.
All right. So there we go. Kingofgreed, any closing thoughts?
Wraith is a good game. Just give it a chance.
There it is. Give it a chance. Everybody's got to play this game at least once. Even if it's a one shot, just check out this game once.
Yep.
And there we go. All right, I'm cutting the recording. G in, everyone.
Have a good night.
All right, there we go.